Hey everyone, how's it going today? We're going to be looking at how my 1 pound Oswald did at May BotBrawl 2023. This is a highly anticipated video. I've kind of been excited to do this for a while, and we're going to be doing this right now. So this is my first ever event. Oswald is the first competitive grade robot that I have built in my life. For those of you who don't know, it is a one-wheeled horizontal bristlebot that uses both its one wheel and the vibration from its horizontal spinner to slowly traverse around the box. It uses a very heavy weapon. It is around 185 pounds of solid aluminum, and it is meant to deliver some very big hits. I didn't have super high hopes for this robot for a number of reasons. First of all, obviously its mobility. Turns out one wheel doesn't make your robot go very fast. It actually doesn't really make it go outside its circumference that much. The vibration also is kind of slow. But it was enough that it usually didn't earn me a count out, which is good. But yeah, also all my electronics are exposed. I had no weight for armor. If I tried to even put a piece of cardboard on it to cover up my electronics, it'll be overweight. So everything's hanging out. My batteries were protected by all the other electronics. So the electronics will get hit first before the batteries. And well, BotBrawl was, I guess they were okay with that. Or at least they were just fine with that being there. They didn't like ban me for it, so I guess that was fine by them. But anyway, so let's get into it. So my first match was against Instigator. It's this two-wheel drive vertical drum spinner. They have a lot of experience at BotBrawl. They've actually won some competitions, and also a vertical spinner isn't a great matchup against the horizontal spinner. So this really wasn't the best matchup for me. They have this like 3D printed plastic chassis, so it's plastic, so all I can really do is try and chip away at it. But some things that I do have at them, I could try and get one of those weapon uprights to try and take out that drum. They also have a lot of gyro. Every time they spin, they kind of go against their side and do this like crazy spin around. But they have a very good driver who's very good at kind of manipulating this gyro thing. It's a very fast robot. I knew this was not going to be an easy fight. So let's take a look at this match.
All right, we have in the red Instigator, and in the white corner we have Oswald.
Red team,
Instigator, are you ready? Instigator is ready.
White team,
Oswald, are you ready? Oswald is ready.
3, 2, 1,
Fight for one.
So at the very first second, I wasn't actually like really sure which way the robot was going, because so I spun up, and obviously I have this big huge weapon, and because it's so heavy, it causes the whole robot to kind of spin around on the spot around the weapon. And this kind of confused me. I wasn't really sure which way the robot was driving, like which way, like when I turned the wheel, which way that would go. So you can kind of see me driving towards the corner, but then I kind of realize what I'm doing. So I realized what's wrong, and I turn it around and kind of point the weapon at them. I think they kind of let me spin up, because I was able to get that weapon up to full speed. So yeah, I pointed the weapon right at them, and I was able to get this weapon-on-weapon hit, and it was a really big hit because it sent me across the box. And I started doing this really weird gyro thing, and I guess my wheel wasn't able to contact the ground. It was just kind of stuck in place, and you can see it's on an angle because it's processing around this big huge weapon, which was kind of an issue because I just could not move. I was frozen in place, and they capitalized off of this. I guess they were able to stabilize much quicker than I could, because they were really quickly able to capitalize, and they went right over and took off my wheel. My weapon starts bouncing against the ground, and I hit the wall, and I bounced around more. And it was at this point where I think maybe I throttled down that weapon, because my speed controller has a braking function. So I tried to slow down that weapon, and these forces loosened the nut on my weapon. That impact that took off my wheel was enough to snap this piece right off. So the wheel just flew out. And so yeah, also the nut loosened. So I had no wheel, and I had no weapon. You can see me trying to spin up that weapon, but I guess it just couldn't catch the nut to suck it back down onto the motor and lock it in place. So no weapon, which is half my drivetrain, and no wheel, which is the other half of my drivetrain. They started going back for more hits, and they actually managed to take off one of the trusses of my my chassis, like one of these like triangle things. It just comes right off, and I wanted to avoid more damage, so I just tapped out very quickly. The reason that I don't have the chassis that was broken in that match, I can't really show you it because I don't have it. I gave it away to the driver of Instigator as a little prize for winning. But yeah, I took some pretty significant damage on my first fight, but we had lots of spares. The motor, like my drive motor with the wheel on it, was completely unharmed. Like the wheel had a couple of chips in it, but the motor was perfectly fine. All I had to do was just put it onto my new chassis, slide it in, and I glued it in place. Last time it was held on with friction. This time I was a bit smarter and glued it in place. And yeah, I moved it all over to the new chassis, all the electronics and things, and I put the motor on there, and I tightened that nut really tight so it doesn't loosen again. And yeah, and I go onto my next match, and I find out I am fighting First Strike, which is another highly experienced two-wheel drive vertical drum spinner. So going into the fight, I was actually quite nervous because, like, I know how good First Strike is. I've seen some of their matches. They're a very durable robot. When I first saw them, they had this aluminum disc, or aluminum drum, similar to the one an Instigator had. But for this fight, they had these two small little vertical discs. It was a dual disc spinner. First Strike's a very small robot. Very little to the ground. It's just this little square thing. So I was actually pretty nervous that I would not contact them. So what I did was I actually changed the wheel out for a larger one that I decided to bring. And that tilted the robot even more, so put on more of an angle, so I could get more weapon reach. And I did a test. I had the weapon at full speed, and I drove in a circle, and there actually, like, the gyro was like, it really wasn't in effect, so that was good. I could perfectly move without having the gyro affected too much. It turns out that wasn't too much of an issue in this fight, and you'll see why. But yeah, I did have a little hope because this kind of wasn't First Strike's competition. You know, they weren't doing that well. They were in the losers bracket with me, and they were just struggling in this competition. But let's see how they did against me.
Okay, I don't know what that thing in the white corner is, but I'm really excited to see it go. We've got first strike in the red. We've got first strike in the red corner and Oswald in the white. Let's get things going.
Red team, are you ready?
First strike is ready.
White team, are you ready?
Oswald is ready.
3, 2, 1, fight.
And Oswald has a one wheel and a spinning blade. And I feel like that's the start to a really bad joke. Except the joke might be a dead robot. Some serious impacts there. Looks like Oswald, we're going to count you out. 10, 9. A tap out from Oswald. But that was a great first impact. Let's hear it for first strike. Good fight. Turns out having all of your electronics exposed without any armor is a bad idea. Who would have thought?
So, with a glass cannon robot that has 70% of the robot's entire weight in the weapon system, you're gonna expect big hits, one-hit KOs, and quick fights, and especially one-hit KOs, whether it's the opponent or you. And that's what we saw here. This was just a massive hit. You can see if you slow down the video and look at this one hit here, just how many times this robot bounces around the arena. It manages to hit the top of first strike, and it contacts the glass of the arena, which is just insane to me. And I can imagine in, like, what is this, 6 bounces, that the weapon trying to activate, like, just like run during this, like what's happening here, or if I tried activating the brake, it's pulling a lot of power from the batteries. And something I didn't think about when designing and building this robot is the surge protection that it's in place of those batteries. And it seems to have activated. It's somewhere in that that exchange, and you can see the power LED of my robot is not on, and it just refused to work at all. It disconnected from my transmitter, like it started beeping and everything, and yeah, the surge protection turned on the batteries. There's no power flowing. It just stayed on, like that surge protection. It just refused to open up and reboot the robot, and I just tapped out to prevent further damage. The robot was pretty much unscathed. I literally just took it out of the arena and fired it back up. It was fine. Like, I just unplugged the battery and plugged it back in, and it was perfectly fine. I think it waits until there's no more power being pulled from those batteries, like absolutely no power, before it reboots. And obviously the receiver and speed controllers and everything are trying to still pull power from the battery. I think it just detected that, and it wouldn't let it restart. So that's how that went. At this point, I was eliminated from the competition. It was a double elimination. And yeah, that was the end of my tournament run. Oswald's debut season, debut competition was pretty much a fail. We got no wins in the competition, which, you know what? It's fine. Like, for first competition, my first ever robot that I've ever brought, I still, like, it's just a win in my books, just to get to the competition and put it in the box and see it run and get into a fight. It's an accomplishment in and of itself. And yeah, that's just how that went. We had sustained no damage, so we were able to go into the grudge matches. By the way, the first opponent that I faced, Instigator, went on to win the whole Antweight division, so not really any shame in losing to the literal Antweight champion of this competition. So, see what you want about that. I don't think it's like really too bad to lose to the champion. If you're gonna get your butt clapped in a fight, might as well be to the one who's gonna win it all. But the second opponent, First Strike, I think they kind of managed to knock me out faster, but it didn't do as well as Instigator. Oh well, better luck next time. So I competed in 2 grudge matches. This next one was against RoboMixie. RoboMixie is a very interesting robot. It has these 2 large wheels powered by N20 motors, the same ones that Oswald's powered by, and it has 2 spinners on the front. I think they were having weight limit issues because there was 2 holes on the ends of the weapons where screws, like impactors, are supposed to go into, but they were pretty overweight, so they had to remove them. So they essentially had 2 plastic spinners, one overcutter and one undercutter, and they both spun. And there's like a gap between them. There's one here and one here. And the whole robot was basically made of plastic. I remember I first brought the robot into the pits, and they took a look at my robot, and they looked at mine, and looked at their robot, and were very concerned. It was I think it's driven by a 7-year-old. It's just a little kid. So we're not gonna try and expect the best driving from them. The robot is still working fine, so we just put it in the box, and well, let's just see how that went.
3, 2, 1, fight.
We are back at it. This time RoboMixie looks like it's working. So Oswald works kind of by inching itself forwards, using the vibrations of that blade and then guiding it with its other wheel. RoboMixie is trying to get both of its weapons spinning at once. RoboMixie has a good chance here if it can get into those electronics. Oswald inching closer. And it definitely spins fast enough to do some damage, but can it get to where it needs to go? That's the question. Mixie's got one weapon working. The other one won't quite go, but if Mixie can get that weapon into the electronics, it might do some damage. Both weapons going. Can we get it into that electronics pile? Okay, we all know what we want to see. But will it happen? Maybe if we will the robots together, they'll hit each other. Okay, everybody push on 3. 1, 2, 3. Ah, that didn't work. I tried. Let's go, let's go. Ah.
1 minute remaining.
So it looks like Oswald's blade fits between RoboMixie's blades in the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. The robots can't hit each other unless RoboMixie hits that back, or somehow Oswald gets to the back of RoboMixie. And if you're wondering, why aren't we counting the robots out? Well, they're both technically alive. Okay, now, crowd, how how do you judge this fight? What damage was done? What control and aggression? Oh, it's gonna come down to aggression, maybe.
10 seconds.
Robo
remaining.
Mixie, you need to show motion before the end of the match, or we're gonna count it as a knockout. It survives to the judge's decision.
Match over.
All right, guys, this was pretty good. Both of these robots were very broken earlier this competition, so the fact that they're working at all is impressive. But we are going to decide who wins by crowd vote. So if you think the white robot, Robo Mixie, should win, make some noise. And if you think Oswald, the red robot, should win, make some noise. Okay, you guys are no help at all. All right. I want to give it to Robo Mixie because they actually moved around. So let's give it up for Robo Mixie. I want to give Oswald the cool robot award, though.
So, not a lot happened in that fight. My mobility really suffered in that fight, as it usually does. It is a bristlebot after all. We're not going to have the best driving, for sure. But, again, this is a robot driven by a 7-year-old. So he's not going to have the most aggressive driving, and it really showed. Part of Oswald's strategy is to kind of wait for them to come at me, and then I kind of bait with the wheel, and you can see me baiting with the wheel, and then I can kind of whip around and hit it with the spinner. Robo Mixie has plastic horizontals, and I knew if I could go weapon on weapon with those spinners, it could have done some like detrimental damage to them. It's a fully 3D printed robot. They were having weight issues, so they couldn't put any screws for the steel impactors on their weapons. They usually have just these plastic arms for the weapons, and they'd have the steel on the end to actually deliver the impact. But they suffered with weight issues. They were too heavy, so they could not add them. So they were left with essentially a plastic antweight against one of the largest antweight spinners at that competition, which just happened to be my robot. So I was really counting on them to charge at me so that I could hit them. But that really did not happen there. But you could see there was some point where our weapons came very close, but nothing happened. So what happened was exactly what the announcer said. Let's just say this is Robo Mixie's weapon. It went right over it, and it just barely managed to scrape on something. Just imagine there's two of them, and they're like right there. There seems to be a gap between them, and Oswald's weapon just fit right between them. But if you put this on here, it seemed to have been making that sound when they came in contact. So it was hitting something, but it just wasn't able to catch whatever is hitting or get enough surface area on the tooth to bite onto it and punch it as it usually does. It's more of a bludgeoning blade. It's not really a cutting blade. It's meant to get a good bite on something and toss it and just break it into a bunch of pieces. But that did not happen. It just scraped against something on their robot, and that's it. And after that, that was the only engagement of the entire fight. So it was a lot of nothing. And I guess it was kind of a boring fight. It wasn't for me when I was driving it. My heart was racing the entire time. I was desperate to just try and drive at them and drive very cautiously, because I have a very unstable robot. If like one thing happens and it tips over, it's gonna process around this big huge weapon, and it's gonna go out of control and go flying across the box as it has for the other two matches. But it was just kind of a whole lot of nothing, because You know, it was a kid driver. He was probably afraid of his robot getting damaged, and I mean, I can kind of see why. This this weapon's no joke. It's an insanely heavy weapon for an ant weight, and I'm spinning it pretty fast. I have a beast of a motor on there. So I can see why he was scared. I probably would be too, if I had a plastic ant weight against something like my robot. But thankfully for them, my mobility is what had to be reduced to put that kind of a weapon on there. So I wasn't able to do any damage to them. I am disappointed that I wasn't able to deliver a good fight for everyone. It was a really funny moment when my weapon wasn't able to engage with them, when it just went right between their two weapons and just hit nothing. That was really funny. But yeah, that's just the reality of it. That's how the fights go. There's not really much you can do about that. It just proves that you're gonna have struggles, especially the first robot. I think both of us are rookie competitors, so we're gonna have new robot gremlins that we need to work out. So that's just how that fight went. My robot was obviously working fine, so I was eager to get into another match. There was this one team that was just making like scrap robots, I guess. Robots out of just a bunch of parts. Like they had this lunchbox, like a Thor lunchbox robot with 2 foam wheels and a big like salad bowl with metal like impactors, like sharp metal impactors, as a full body spinner robot. And it was like 1.2 pounds. It was a bit overweight, and they just wanted to fight someone. So as same as the last match, I went over and volunteered just like that. Told them I'd be happy to fight them. And they were like, well, our robot isn't exactly working right now. We're having troubles with the spinner, but once we get it up and running, we'll be very happy to fight you. So that was that, and they managed to get it working. So they both threw it into the box, and let's just see how that fight went.
We have a lot of rookie and first-time builders here this weekend. And I believe both of the robots that are about to compete are new-time builders here at BotBrawl. So I'm going off of memory. I believe that's Hector in the white corner. Hamlet? Henry? Oh, he's Henry. The driver's name is Henry. What is it? Oh, Robo Mixie. That's right. Right. Robo Mixie has 2 weapons on it, designed to hit at 2 different heights. You've seen a lot of robots are kind of awkwardly shaped. Well, this one's extra awkwardly shaped. It's got 1 drive wheel and a giant spinning wheel. And it works by kind of torquing against itself and the forces that its spinning wheel will generate. Don't ask about all the exposed electronics. We'll just pretend there's something covering them. Robots are loaded in the red corner, we have Hector. Oswald, oh my God, not Hector. Oswald in the red corner. And in the white corner, we have Robo Mixie.
Red team, are you ready?
Oswald, are you ready? Oswald is ready.
White team, are you ready?
Robo Mixie's ready.
3, 2, 1, fight.
Fight, robots, fight. Asking for a pause. Whites, we're going to pause the match. What's the problem, Robo Mixie? Are we going to let... I think we're going to let Robo Mixie restart their robot. Occasionally, when you turn it off and then on again, it will reconnect. There are a lot of wireless signals around here. Oz? Yeah, hands off the sticks. Yep. Sorry? I think so, yeah.
Three, two, one, fight.
We are back at it. This time Robo Mixie looks like it's working. So Oswald works kind of by inching itself forwards, using the vibrations of that blade and then guiding it with its other wheel. Robo Mixie is trying to get both of its weapons spinning at once. Robo Mixie has a good chance here if it can get into those electronics. Oswald inching closer. And it definitely spins fast enough to do some damage, but can it get to where it needs to go? That's the question. Mixie's got one weapon working. The other one won't quite go, but if Mixie can get that weapon into the electronics, it might do some damage. Both weapons going. Can we get it into that electronics pile? Okay, we all know what we want to see. But will it happen? Maybe if we will the robots together, they'll hit each other. Okay, everybody push on 3. 1, 2, 3. Ah, that didn't work. I tried. Let's go, let's go. Ah.
1 minute remaining.
So it looks like Oswald's blade fits between Robo Mixie's blades in the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. The robots can't hit each other unless Robo Mixie hits that back or somehow Oswald gets to the back of Robo Mixie. And if you're wondering, why aren't we counting the robots out? Well, they're both technically alive. Okay, now, crowd, how do you judge this fight? What damage was done? What control and aggression? Oh, it's gonna come down to aggression, maybe.
10 seconds.
Robo
remaining.
Mixie, you need to show motion before the end of the match, or we're going to count it as a knockout. It survives to the judge's decision.
Match over.
All right, guys, this was pretty good. Both of these robots were very broken earlier this competition, so the fact that they're working at all is impressive. But we are going to decide who wins by crowd vote. So if you think the white robot, Robo Mixie, should win, make some noise. And if you think Oswald, the red robot, should win, make some noise. Okay, you guys are no help at all. All right. I want to give it to Robo Mixie because they actually moved around. So let's give it up for Robo Mixie. I want to give Oswald the cool robot award, though. I kind of hope he gets that thing actually working because there is a lot of force in that spinning blade. Certainly encouraging for both builders, that fight. It can be really rough your first time at a competition, guys. Okay, what is this thing? I see a bowl and then looks like some knives on the outside. I'm being told that. I'm being told those aren't knives. It's just some sharpened metal. Oh, I'm not allowed to say that. Okay. I'm not allowed to talk about all the weapons these robots have here at BotBrawl, where our weaponed robots fight each other. It's got sharp sticks. The weird red thing in the arena that is being shoved by a broom, I think. Okay, what is happening? All right, we got the official BotBrawl stick. That's slightly more dignified. So Oswald has one wheel and a spinning weapon. Its opponent has a dog dish with some sharpened implements on the outside.
So that didn't go so well. There was two or three good impacts in that fight. I managed to rip off a bunch of the balancing metal that they put on there. Their weapon hole that they put on there for the motor to mount onto, they had it way off, so they had to balance the bowl with a couple of counterweights, and they used hot glue, I think. And my spinner just ripped those right off. And if you looked closely, you could see the huge dent in that salad bowl that Oswald was able to punch in there. I think that's a stainless steel bowl, and I have a aluminum weapon, so that's interesting. But as you could see, the spinner was no longer moving, and if the spinners have my drivetrain, I'm not moving. So what happened there? I believe my speed controller blew up. Everything on that little PCB is just shorted. Like the power input shorted, the receiver input is shorted. It's just no good. Like it's just dead. It is a dead controller. I have, like, it is useless. It's just done. It's dead. So that was kind of just the end of it. I didn't participate in any more fights after that. There was another Rumble. I did try and replace that controller with another one that I had on hand. But at that point, I was just so tired, and I was desperately trying to get everything running, and I just couldn't make it in time. I could not do it. Like I was like actually sweating, and at that point, I realized maybe it's not worth it. The robot's just gonna lose again. It's just gonna be a more expensive thing for me. I'm not gonna do this one. So and I don't even think the Rumble happened anyway. I think they just went to the finals. So that's just how that went. So I had 4 fights. I went 0-4 with the new robot. But I mean, I learned a lot. I know that my my weapon hits really hard. It can do some damage. If you look at those first fights, I'm not the only one getting sent across the arena. Instigator, they got hit pretty hard. They were sent across the box just like me. So yeah, the weapon hits pretty hard. So it's not underpowered in any way. People really liked the design. I expected people to like Oswald. I didn't expect a lot of respect for it. People were really interested in it, and everyone was coming up and seeing it. They were like, "Oh, I saw this on Builder's Database. I was wondering what it was." And like when I first went up to do the safety check, people were like, "I kind of want to see this one go first." So they let me in the front of the line to safety my robot, which is pretty cool. Yeah, and some people assumed that it was a beetle weight, and I told them in the amp, they were like, "What?" So that was really cool. But yeah, I guess the lesson is just getting into the box. That's an accomplishment. If you have an idea, build it. I've had a lot of people tell me that I shouldn't build Oswald, that I should build a 2-wheel design. That's not what they'll tell you at the competition. They love to see stuff like this. And it was really cool to see. There was a lot of love around Oswald. Yeah. There is believed to be another competition at the CNE in August. And I am building a new robot. I am working on a new one. Same destructive power as Oswald, if not way more. We were working to beef up that weapon. We were thinking about using AR 500 instead of aluminum. Aluminum's good. This weapon actually did survive. We only just had like a couple cuts on that tooth. This is still usable. It's perfectly fine. I was actually really surprised with how it held up against some of those hardened steel weapons. So yeah, aluminum as a weapon in the Antweight class. Oh, I wouldn't recommend it in the Beetleweight class, but Antweight class, if you want to build a really big weapon that's lightweight, I'd say go with aluminum. That's I would recommend it. It survived and it hits pretty hard. But we are working with an AR 500 weapon choice. Still super heavy weapon, 150 gram and up. Same motor. We're actually thinking about switching to a 750 kV motor. Right now we're using a 360 kV motor, so we're going to be getting double the speed at the same torque. So like an above 8,000 RPM motor. Right now it is 4,000. So we're going to be bumping those KE numbers to the roof. And it's going to hit really hard for an Antweight. A lot of stuff coming this robot's way. We will have to see how it goes. There will be build reports for that robot. Stay tuned. It's going to be awesome.